The deep silence of space was broken only by the soft hum of engines as the human ship drifted through the darkness. It looked like any other cargo vessel, slow and harmless, carrying supplies from Mars back to Earth. Its name, printed along the hull, was SS Horizon Dawn. To most, it was just another freighter making another long trip through the black ocean of stars. But far away, hidden behind a thick cloud of cosmic dust, another set of eyes was watching. Not human eyes. The watchers were part of a species known as the Varkan, travelers from a distant system who had been quietly observing human ships for years. They believed humans were still weak, new to the vastness of the galaxy and easy to overpower. Their small raiding group, 5 ships in total, had been moving through human space for weeks. They stole resources, intercepted signals, and always disappeared before anyone could respond. Every time they struck, it was quick and clean. No one had ever managed to find them afterward. So when their scanners picked up the Horizon Dawn, they thought it was perfect. A lonely, slow-moving cargo ship, far away from any help. It seemed like the kind of easy target they loved most. Inside their command ship, the Varkan leader leaned closer to the glowing display. The human vessel's engines flickered at a steady rhythm, showing no sign of defense systems. Its communication lines were quiet. No escorts nearby, no patrols within range. Unarmed, one of the crew muttered. Drifting slow, perfect harvest. The leader nodded. To him, it was routine, another small victory. Prepare to engage, quick and quiet, he ordered. What they didn't know, though, was that the Horizon Dawn was not what it appeared to be. Inside the ship, things were far from normal. The crew was small, only 6 people, and the air was tense with quiet energy. Their captain stood near the front viewport, watching the distant stars. She wasn't nervous. She looked focused, as if she had been waiting for something. A soft voice came through her earpiece. Captain, unidentified movement detected on long-range radar. 5 contacts. Trajectory suggests interception. The captain took a slow breath. Just as planned, she said calmly. To any outsider, the Horizon Dawn was just a freighter. But in reality, it was part of a secret defense project known only to a few high-ranking officials on Earth. The ship carried not cargo, but something far more important, an experimental defense system designed to study and counter alien technology. It was built to look weak, but every inch of it had been modified for one purpose, to lure in hostile forces and learn from them. The crew had been trained not for transport, but for surveillance and containment. Every movement they made, every signal they received was part of a carefully prepared operation. Still, no one could fully predict what would happen when real contact occurred. The first warning came when the ship's sensors began to flicker. The crew's technician looked up from her console. Jamming detected. They're blocking our frequencies. The captain didn't flinch. That means they're close. She turned toward her team. All stations ready. Keep calm. This is what we trained for. Out in space, the Varkan ships began their silent approach. They were sleek and dark, built for stealth. They moved like shadows, their weapons already charged. One of the raiders, younger and less experienced, spoke nervously to his commander. Are you sure this is safe? Humans are unpredictable. The leader laughed, a sharp sound through the static. They're predictable in one way. When they panic, they're still learning the stars. This will be easy. He didn't know how wrong he was. The Varkan fired the first shot. A thin bolt of plasma streaked through the darkness, hitting the Horizon Dawn along its side. The ship shook and alarms echoed through the corridors. But instead of exploding or breaking apart, the damaged panels sealed themselves instantly. The hull shimmered with blue light, as if the ship had absorbed the hit. The Varkan paused. That wasn't supposed to happen. Inside the human vessel, the captain stood calmly in the control room. Damage report? She asked. Minimal, the technician replied. Auto seal successful. Energy field holding. Good. Let them come closer. The captain said softly. It's time they see what we're capable of. The Varkan ships surrounded the Horizon Dawn, firing in short bursts. Each time, the human vessel absorbed or deflected the attacks. It moved slowly, giving the impression of weakness, but every second it was analyzing the enemy's weapon signatures and patterns. The alien leader grew impatient. Enough games. Prepare to board. From hidden ports on their ships, small transport pods launched toward the Horizon Dawn. They attached themselves to the outer hull, melting small entry points with precision tools. One by one, alien soldiers entered the ship. Inside, the corridors were quiet and dimly lit. The air was thick and the lights flickered faintly. The intruders moved carefully, their scanners mapping the halls. But they found nothing. No resistance, no crew. It was as if the ship had been abandoned. They advanced deeper, unaware that hidden sensors were tracking every move they made. The human crew, watching from a sealed control room, could see everything on their screens, every step, every sound. "They're inside," one of the operators said quietly. The captain gave a single nod. "Keep recording, don't engage yet." She wanted to know how they worked, how they moved, how they communicated. Every second was valuable data, but as the aliens spread out through the ship, one of them noticed something strange. The walls had faint patterns, lines of metal that pulsed softly, like veins under skin. He touched one, and the light beneath his hand glowed brighter. Before he could react, the corridor around him shifted. Panels in the ceiling slid open, and mechanical arms extended, scanning his armor and weapon. It wasn't an attack, not yet. It was observation. He shouted something in his language, and the others turned toward him. Then, all at once, the lights changed from dim yellow to cold blue. The ship had switched modes. In the control room, the captain gave her next order. "Activate internal defense grid. Containment mode only. No lethal force." The crew pressed a sequence of commands. Across the ship, hidden mechanisms came to life. Automated doors sealed, trapping the intruders in sections of the corridor. The floor beneath them vibrated as invisible energy fields formed barriers, cutting off their escape. One of the alien groups tried to blast through a sealed door, but their weapons stopped responding, jammed by the ship's adaptive system. Every shot they fired was analyzed, neutralized, and countered. Inside their own ship, the Varkan commander saw the signal feed from his boarding teams go dark. Static filled his screens. He frowned. "What happened to the teams? Report." No reply. He tried again, switching frequencies. Still nothing. Then one of his officers looked up with worry. "Sir, the human ship, it's not transmitting distress calls. It's not asking for help." The commander hesitated. That didn't make sense. Every time humans were attacked before, they called for backup immediately. This one was silent. "Pull the teams back," he ordered. "Now." But it was too late. Inside the Horizon Dawn, the intruders were being slowly surrounded by the ship's automated systems. They weren't being harmed, just contained. Cameras recorded every detail, feeding the data to the human analysts. The ship's AI monitored their reactions, learning faster than anyone expected. In the control room, the captain watched the feeds quietly. "They're realizing it now," she said. One of her crew looked at her. "Do you think they'll retreat?" The captain's eyes stayed on the screens. "Maybe, but if they do, they'll take the story with them. That's the point." Her words hung in the air, calm, measured, and heavy with meaning. For years, humans had been treated by other species as newcomers, explorers without power, not worth fearing. But the Horizon Dawn was built to change that image. It was a message hidden inside a trap, a demonstration of how far humanity had come here and how far it was willing to go to protect itself. The Varkan ships outside began to back away, unsure what they had just encountered. Their leader hesitated, his instincts warning him that something was very wrong. The human vessel, though smaller and slower, was standing firm. He didn't know it yet, but this encounter would become the start of something much bigger. The moment his people realized that attacking a human ship was not just risky, but possibly the greatest mistake they could ever make. Inside the Horizon Dawn, the captain gave one final command. "Hold positions, do not pursue, let them leave." As the alien ships disappeared into the darkness, she finally allowed herself a small smile. "They'll think they escaped," she said softly, "but we got everything we needed." The crew didn't cheer. They didn't relax. They just sat quietly, knowing what this moment meant. Humanity had just shown its strength, not through war or aggression, but through patience, intelligence, and control. Out in the endless dark, the horizon dawn drifted once more, quiet, steady, waiting for the next test. The stars around it shone cold and distant, unaware that a new chapter in human history had just begun. The blackness of space was calm again, but everyone inside the horizon dawn knew that calm never lasted long. The ship moved slowly, pretending to drift without power while deep inside its control room every system stayed alert. The crew was silent, listening to the faint hum of machines that kept them hidden. Then, just as expected, the sensors flickered. Small dots appeared on the radar, the same alien ships returning. The Varkan hadn't left completely. They had only pulled back to observe. "They're circling us again," one of the technicians said, keeping his eyes on the screen. 5 ships, same formation. The captain looked out the viewport, her expression unreadable. "They're not done yet," she said quietly. "They're testing us." For a long moment, the crew said nothing. The silence in space was endless, and even the soft blinking lights of the consoles felt louder than usual. Each of them knew what was coming. Another wave. But this time it wouldn't be like the first. The Varkan had learned something from their failed boarding attempt. They realized the human ship wasn't just a weak cargo vessel. It had technology they didn't understand. But instead of retreating, they made a decision. They would destroy it completely and take what they could from the wreck. In their command ship, the alien leader watched the human vessel through a transparent screen. "They resisted our first strike," he said to his crew. "That means they have secrets worth taking." One of his officers hesitated. But the boarding party, they never returned. The leader waved off the concern. "Machines malfunction. Signals fail. It happens. We proceed." The crew obeyed without question. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap designed for exactly this kind of arrogance. Back on the horizon dawn, the human crew saw energy signatures forming near the enemy ships. The technician frowned. "They're charging weapons again. Stronger this time." The captain stood tall. "Activate shield amplifiers. Maintain false distress signals. Make it look like we're struggling." Within seconds, the alien ships opened fire. Blue and orange beams cut through the void, striking the horizon dawn's hull. The ship rocked gently, lights dimming for a brief moment before returning to normal. The crew held their breath, pretending to panic, power levels dropping. One of the officers shouted, following the act. "Good," the captain said under her breath. "Let them believe it." Outside, the Varkan saw what looked like a wounded ship. Its engines flickered, its shields shimmered weakly. To them, it looked like victory. "Now," the alien leader said, "finish it." All 5 ships launched their second barrage, pouring energy toward the horizon dawn. But the human vessel didn't crumble. Instead, hidden panels along its sides opened, revealing strange circular devices that began to rotate. The air around the ship shimmered like heat rising off metal. Inside the control room, one of the engineers smiled. "Field generators online. They're taking the bait." The ship's defense system was doing something new. It wasn't just absorbing the attacks anymore. It was analyzing the alien energy and redirecting it. The horizon dawn was learning. The alien commander stared at his screen in disbelief. "Why isn't it breaking apart?" "Our readings show they should be losing structural stability." His officers scrambled to check their instruments, but the data didn't make sense. Their weapons were having no effect. Instead, the human ship seemed to be adapting with every shot. "Impossible," the commander muttered. "No human ship can do that, but it could." And it was. The captain watched quietly as the systems adjusted themselves. The horizon dawn was recording everything. Weapon frequencies, shield harmonics, communication patterns. Every move the Varkan made was feeding the human database. Then something unexpected happened. One of the alien ships moved closer, too close. It drifted within range of the horizon dawn's energy field. For a moment, it looked like nothing happened. And then, slowly, the alien vessel's lights flickered. The crew inside the horizon dawn stared at the screens. "Did we just—" one of them whispered. The captain nodded. "Yes, we disrupted their power core. They won't understand how." For the first time, the Varkan realized they were not hunters anymore. They were prey. The alien leader shouted for his fleet to regroup, but confusion spread quickly. Their systems were malfunctioning, and their communication links started to cut out. What they didn't know was that the Horizon Dawn's experimental AI had already infiltrated their signal network. In the human control room, the AI's soft voice echoed through the speakers. Foreign communication patterns detected. Analysis in progress. Proceed, the captain said. No counterattack. Just observation. She wanted data, not destruction. The mission wasn't to win a fight. It was to learn how to prevent future wars. Still, the tension was thick. The crew could feel the weight of every second. One wrong move and the fragile balance could break. Suddenly, a bright flare lit up the viewport. One of the alien ships had overcharged its own weapons, trying to overpower the human defenses. The blast missed its target and exploded in empty space. The shockwave rippled outward harmlessly, but it was enough to send a message. The Varkan were panicking. Inside their command vessel, alarms screamed. "Contain the energy surge," one officer shouted. "Pull back." The commander roared. "They've turned our own power against us." But deep inside, even he knew it was too late to undo the mistake. He had underestimated them. Back on the Horizon Dawn, the captain's crew watched the alien formation break apart. Some ships retreated while others struggled to stabilize. One of the younger officers leaned closer to the screen. "Should we go after them?" The captain shook her head. "No, we stay invisible. Let them think we're damaged. The less they know, the better." The ship powered down its visible systems, dimming its lights again until it looked like a drifting wreck. But behind that quiet surface, the ship was alive, processing all the data it had gathered. Hours passed in silence. The crew sat in half-light, their faces tired but alert. The captain walked slowly between them, checking each station. "Status report," she asked softly. "Shield stable. Weapons offline." "No internal damage," replied the engineer. "AI processing complete. Data stored in secure core," added another. The captain nodded with satisfaction. "Good, you've done well. Remember, what we learn here will protect everyone back home." Her words reminded them of what this mission was really about. Humanity wasn't looking for war. They were trying to understand what was out there to prepare for whatever came next. Far away, the alien commander sat in silence aboard his damaged ship. The images of the human vessel replayed over and over on his screen. The unbroken hull, the strange blue glow, the unflinching calm. He couldn't understand it. Every time his people fought humans before, it was simple. Humans fought hard but broke easily. But this one was different. It didn't fight out of fear. It fought like it already knew the outcome. For the first time, a sense of unease crept into his mind. He turned to his second-in-command. "Mark that ship's signature," he said. "We'll report it to the council. No more attacks without command approval." The younger officer hesitated. "Are we retreating?" The commander stared into the dark. "We're surviving," he replied quietly. As the alien fleet slowly disappeared into the vastness, the Horizon Dawn drifted once again in peaceful silence. The stars returned to their quiet glow, as if nothing had happened. Inside the ship, the crew finally allowed themselves a moment to breathe. The tension faded, replaced by quiet pride. They had done what they came to do, and more. The captain sat in her chair, looking out into the endless dark. "They'll come again," she said softly. Her first officer nodded. "Yes, but next time we'll be ready," she smiled faintly. "Next time they'll think twice before making the same mistake." Outside, the ship continued its slow journey through space, pretending once more to be just another freighter. But beneath its calm exterior, its systems glowed faintly with new power. The knowledge it had gained from the battle. It was more than just a ship now. It was a symbol, proof that humanity wasn't weak anymore, proof that intelligence could be stronger than aggression. And somewhere out there in the darkness between stars, the Varkan carried a new story with them, one they would whisper to others, that attacking a human ship might be the worst decision they could ever make. The Horizon Dawn floated on, silent and steady, its engines humming softly like a heartbeat in the dark. It had done its job, and it was only the beginning of what humanity would soon become. The stars around the Horizon Dawn shimmered like cold dust. The ship floated in silence, its engines barely moving, giving off the image of a tired, damaged freighter. To anyone watching from a distance, it looked harmless, maybe even helpless. But inside, the crew knew this was all part of the plan. Every flicker of light, every slow movement was carefully calculated. Hours had passed since the Varkan ships disappeared. The crew thought they might finally be safe, but deep down, no one really believed it. The aliens were proud and persistent. They wouldn't leave without answers. And they didn't. When the sensors flickered again, everyone in the control room went still. The technician spoke quietly. "They're back. 3 ships this time. Looks like they're scanning from a distance." The captain didn't look surprised. "They'll come closer. They always do when they think they found something valuable." The crew exchanged glances. They all knew what she meant. The aliens weren't coming just for revenge. They wanted to know how this human ship had survived their attacks. They were curious, and curiosity was dangerous. "Do we activate defense?" one of the engineers asked. "Not yet," the captain said softly. "Let them board again." The crew hesitated. It sounded risky, but they trusted her judgment. The Horizon Dawn wasn't just a ship. It was a trap built for this very situation. Its entire purpose was to lure in hostile forces and learn from them. The first encounter had given humanity valuable data, but now came the real test. How the enemy would react once inside. Out in the void? The Varkan fleet moved slowly toward the Horizon Dawn. The alien commander stared at the floating ship through the screen in front of him. It looked powerless, barely alive. He felt a mix of anger and curiosity. He turned to his officers. "We will board again," he said firmly. "This time, no mistakes. We bring back whatever technology they are hiding." The crew followed his command. Small boarding pods detached from their ship, gliding silently toward the human vessel. The moment they got close, the Horizon Dawn systems detected them, but the captain made no move to stop it. "Status?" she asked calmly. "Multiple pods attaching to the hull," the technician replied. "They're cutting through the outer layer." The captain nodded. "Seal all internal compartments. Let them in through Section B. Prepare containment mode." As the aliens breached the ship, the corridors of the Horizon Dawn stayed quiet and dimly lit. The air was still, and the faint hum of machines echoed through the metal halls. It almost felt like the ship was holding its breath. The first Varkan entered carefully. They were taller than humans, their armor reflecting the dim lights. They moved with discipline, scanning every surface, marking pathways. The crew watching from the control room could see everything through hidden cameras. "Don't engage," the captain reminded them. "Record everything. We need their movement patterns, their communication frequencies, and how they react to confinement." The aliens split into smaller teams, spreading through different corridors. Their scanners picked up traces of energy from the ship's earlier battle. They followed the readings deeper inside, unaware that every step they took was being monitored. Then, without warning, the lights flickered once and then twice, and went completely dark. For a few seconds there was total silence. Then a soft blue glow returned, running along the edges of the walls like liquid light. It wasn't bright, just enough to reveal faint symbols etched into the metal. The aliens looked around, confused. "What's happening?" one of them asked in their language, his voice muffled through the comm system. From the control room, the human crew watched closely. The captain's eyes didn't leave the main screen. "Wait for it," she whispered. Suddenly, a thin mist filled the corridors. It wasn't smoke, it was a scanning field. Invisible beams moved through the air, measuring, mapping, learning. Within seconds, the ship's AI had analyzed the shape and composition of every piece of alien equipment. "Data flow confirmed," said one of the crew members quietly. "Armor composition identified. Energy sources mapped. Good," the captain replied. "Activate adaptive layer. Let the ship learn from their tech." Panels along the walls began to change. They shimmered slightly, turning darker, stronger. The ship was rewriting its own structure in real time, preparing itself for whatever the aliens might try next. One of the intruders raised his weapon, scanning the area nervously. The moment he aimed, the walls reacted. A blue pulse rippled outward and his weapon went cold in his hands. He tried again, but nothing happened. From the control room, the human engineer smiled. "Their weapons just got neutralized." The captain gave a small nod. "Good. Keep containment barriers on standby." The aliens continued moving, unaware that they were walking deeper into the heart of the trap. The corridors began to shift slightly, not enough to alarm them immediately, but enough to change direction. Hallways that should have led to the control room now looped back on themselves. Doors that were open moments ago sealed silently. "They're trapped," whispered the technician, watching the dots on the tracking map move in circles. "Let them realize it on their own," the captain said. "The more they panic, the more data we get." One of the Varkan soldiers tried to force open a sealed door. He hit it with the full strength of his armor's exoskeleton. But the metal didn't even dent. Another tried to override the door's system with a hacking tool. But as soon as he connected it, sparks flew. The ship had counterhacked his device and erased it completely. In the command ship outside, the alien leader watched in confusion. The feed from his boarding teams kept cutting in and out. "Why aren't they reporting?" he demanded. "Signal interference," one of his officers replied nervously. "Something on that ship is blocking communications." "Impossible," the commander growled. "That vessel has no known defense system." "How?" He stopped mid-sentence as his screen flickered. A faint static image appeared for a moment. The interior of the human ship, blue lights glowing along the walls, and his soldiers standing motionless as their equipment failed one by one. Then the feed went dark. Inside the Horizon Dawn, the captain watched as the aliens finally stopped moving. They realized they were trapped. The ship had locked every door, sealed every vent, and cut off their ability to communicate with the outside. The captain leaned forward. "Initiate Phase 2. A soft hum filled the ship as invisible fields formed around each group of intruders, creating safe containment zones. The captain's voice was calm. "No harm, just containment. Let the AI continue observation." The crew watched the screens closely. The aliens tried everything. Manual override, physical force, energy tools, but nothing worked. The Horizon Dawn systems adapted instantly to every attempt. Minutes turned into hours. The ship continued to record everything. The aliens' movements, their language, their emotional responses. Every piece of data was valuable. At last, the captain stood and turned to her crew. "That's enough. We've seen what we needed to see. Prepare to release them." The technician looked surprised. "Release them?" "Yes," she said with a calm smile. "They came looking for information. Let them leave with just enough to stay curious, but not enough to understand." With a few commands, the energy fields vanished. Doors opened silently. The aliens hesitated, unsure if it was a trick. But when they realized the path was clear, they hurried back toward their entry points. Within minutes, their pods detached from the ship and drifted away into the darkness. The Horizon Dawn remained still. "They're gone," the technician said quietly. The captain nodded. "Good. Send a ghost transmission. Make it look like our systems failed completely. Then power down all external signals." The ship went dark again, blending into the stars. On the alien command ship, the leader watched as his boarding pods returned. No one spoke for a long time. His soldiers looked shaken, their armor covered in strange marks from the human ship's scanning fields. The commander studied them carefully. "Report," one of the soldiers spoke, his voice uncertain. "The ship, it was alive. It studied us. It learned from us," the commander frowned. "Nonsense. Machines don't think like that." But deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. He turned toward the dark screen showing the human vessel still floating silently in the distance. It looked dead, lifeless, and yet something about it felt unsettling. He couldn't explain it, but he felt as if the ship was watching him. Inside the Horizon Dawn, the crew slowly relaxed. The captain sat back in her chair, eyes on the fading image of the alien ships. "They'll leave now," she said quietly. "And when they do, they'll tell everyone they met something they couldn't explain." Her second-in-command looked at her curiously. "You wanted them to be afraid?" "Not afraid," she said, her tone thoughtful. "Just cautious. Fear leads to war, but caution leads to respect. That's what we need." The crew nodded in agreement. The Horizon Dawn resumed its quiet drift through space, the hum of its systems soft and steady. Deep inside its core, the AI continued processing the data it had collected, preparing for future encounters. And somewhere out there, the Varkan ships retreated into the endless dark, carrying with them a story that would spread across the stars. A story about a human ship that couldn't be destroyed, a ship that learned faster than anything they had ever seen. It would take time for them to understand what really happened, but by then humanity would already be one step ahead. The Horizon Dawn remained still, surrounded by the silent beauty of... The silence of space felt heavier after the Varkan left. The Horizon Dawn floated quietly, its lights dim and soft as if resting after a long night. The crew had been through hours of tension, and even though they had succeeded in trapping and releasing the intruders safely, no one could relax yet. They knew this wasn't the end. The captain stood near the main display screen, her eyes watching the stars. The crew around her worked quietly, monitoring the long-range scanners. The hum of the ship's systems filled the silence. "They'll be back," the captain said finally. Her voice was calm, but there was no doubt in it. The engineer looked up from his console. "You really think they'd risk it again after what happened inside?" "They're proud," she replied. "They'll come back. But next time they won't come alone." Her prediction was right, far beyond the reach of human sensors. In a cluster of faint blue stars, the Varkan commander sat in his war chamber, surrounded by holographic displays. His face was tense as he watched the recordings from his soldiers' helmets, the strange blue-lit corridors, the scanning mist, the metal walls that seemed alive. He turned to his advisors. "That ship is not what it appears to be. It holds technology beyond human capability." One of them nodded slowly. "If we can capture it, we can learn its secrets." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then we prepare a full assault." Back on the Horizon Dawn, days passed quietly. The ship continued its silent journey through the emptiness. The crew didn't know when the aliens would strike again, but they were ready. Every system had been checked and rechecked. The AI processed new defense strategies while the human crew kept their calm routines. Sometimes, late at night, one could hear the faint sound of laughter in the mess hall. The crew tried to stay human, talking about home, old memories, or simple things like food and music. They knew they were part of something important, something history might never officially record. Then, one quiet morning, the sensors came alive again. The technicians stared at the radar in disbelief. Multiple contacts. Not 5 this time. At least 20. Everyone froze. The captain walked slowly to the main screen. "So they brought the whole fleet," she murmured. The engineer swallowed hard. "What do we do?" The captain didn't panic. "We follow the plan." The crew quickly took their positions. The ship's lights dimmed as systems shifted into stealth mode. The Horizon Dawn seemed to fade into the background of space, its energy signature almost invisible. The captain pressed a small button on her console and opened a private channel. "This is Captain of the Horizon Dawn to Command Base. Phase 4 commencing. Requesting support." A calm voice replied from the other side. "Acknowledged. Backup fleet standing by. Signal when target is confirmed." The Horizon Dawn waited. Outside, the Varkan fleet advanced slowly. Their formation spread wide, creating a wall of glowing engines and sharp metal silhouettes. They were cautious this time, scanning constantly, expecting hidden traps. The Varkan commander leaned forward. "If it resists, we destroy it. No mercy this time." His ships moved in closer, weapons charged. But something felt off. The human vessel looked the same. Damaged, powerless, floating helplessly. "Too easy? Is it real?" one of his officers asked. "It's real," the commander said firmly. "We'll take it." He gave the order and the fleet began its approach. Inside the Horizon Dawn, the air felt heavy with anticipation. The captain's eyes were steady. "All crew, hold positions," she said. "Remember, we don't strike first. Let them come within range." Minutes passed. The alien ships drew closer until their outlines filled the forward viewport. Their engines pulsed with bright light. The sound of scanners echoed softly through the human ship's walls. Then, without warning, the first energy blast struck the Horizon Dawn. The ship shook slightly but held its position. Another hit followed. The crew didn't react. They had trained for this moment. "They're within range now," the technician reported. The captain nodded slowly. "Then let's end this." With a calm hand, she entered a sequence of commands. Suddenly, the ship's systems came to life. Hidden panels opened and energy fields expanded like ripples on water. A faint blue light surrounded the Horizon Dawn as the ship dropped its disguise. "Stealth mode disengaged," the AI announced softly. "Phase 4 activated." The Varkan fleet didn't understand what was happening. Their sensors began to glitch, their readings scrambled. What had looked like a single ship now appeared as several. The Horizon Dawn was projecting decoys, reflections of itself, each giving off identical energy patterns. From the Varkan command ship, it looked as if dozens of human vessels had appeared out of nowhere. "Multiple targets detected," one of the alien officers shouted. "We can't tell which one is real." The commander's jaw tightened. "Fire on all of them!" They did. But the moment their weapons fired, the signals they used were tracked, and far in the distance a faint shimmer in space appeared. The captain of the Horizon Dawn smiled faintly. "Now," she said. In that instant, space itself seemed to twist. One by one, massive human ships decloaked, sleek, dark vessels that had been hidden within the shadows of a nearby asteroid field. They had been waiting, silent and invisible, for the Varkan to reveal their exact position. From the alien perspective, the trap snapped shut in seconds. The Varkan commander stared in shock as over a dozen human warships surrounded his fleet. They hadn't detected a single one before. How did they? He began, but the words never finished. The Horizon Dawn transmitted a signal across all frequencies. It wasn't a threat, just a calm message. "You are surrounded. Power down your weapons and withdraw. We do not wish to destroy you." Inside the human control room, the crew watched the Varkan ships scramble. Some powered down immediately, others tried to flee, but their engines were jammed. The human fleet had activated electromagnetic fields that disrupted the alien systems without damaging them. The captain watched quietly. "We won't fire unless they force us to," she said. "Let's show them what control looks like." The Varkan commander's pride burned. "Retreat," he ordered, but his ships couldn't move. Their navigation failed, and communication between them began to collapse. The human fleet didn't attack. They simply held their positions, forming a silent wall of precision and power. The Horizon Dawn drifted forward, its hull gleaming under the distant starlight. The Varkan could see now that the cargo ship was nothing of the sort. Its sides were lined with advanced technology, sensors, emitters, and devices unlike anything they had seen. The human fleet opened a communication channel once more. This time, the captain's voice echoed across space, clear and calm. "You thought we were unarmed," she said. "You thought humans were weak. But weakness is what taught us to become stronger. Every mistake we made, we learned from. Every loss made us smarter. That's how we survive." The Varkan commander listened in silence. His ship's systems flickered helplessly. He realized there was no way out. Not through strength, not through speed. He finally understood. The Horizon Dawn systems recorded everything. The alien ships, their energy patterns, their signal structures. Humanity had learned more in 1 hour than it could have in decades. The captain turned to her crew. "Begin data recovery. Focus on propulsion readings and communication encryption. We'll send the results to command." Her team worked efficiently. Despite the tension, there was no sense of victory or arrogance. They weren't celebrating. They were observing, doing their job. Minutes later, the human command fleet received confirmation. All alien ships were disabled, but intact. No destruction, no loss of life, just silence and surrender. The captain looked at the empty screen where the Varkan fleet had once seemed unstoppable. She exhaled slowly. "It's over," she said softly. But deep inside, she knew it wasn't truly the end. It was only the beginning of a new understanding between two species, one that might change the course of the galaxy forever. The Horizon Dawn powered down its defense systems. The human fleet began to fade once again into the shadows, leaving no trace behind. By the time the Varkan regained partial control, the humans were gone. To anyone who heard the story later, it sounded like a ghost tale. A ship that appeared from nowhere surrounded an entire fleet and vanished without a single casualty. The Varkan commander would spend months trying to explain it to his council. Some wouldn't believe him, others would. But one thing was certain. From that day forward, no one in their species dared to attack a human vessel again. Inside the Horizon Dawn, the captain stood quietly, looking out at the stars. The ship's AI spoke softly beside her. "Mission successful. All hostile forces neutralized. No fatalities recorded." She smiled faintly. "That's how we win. Not by fighting harder, but by thinking smarter." Her crew sat in silence, proud but humble. They knew they hadn't just won a battle. They had sent a message. Humanity didn't need to rule through fear. It could stand its ground through intelligence, patience, and unity. The stars outside twinkled like distant witnesses to what had just happened, a quiet reminder that even in the vastness of space, understanding and wisdom could be stronger than aggression. The Horizon Dawn resumed its path, disappearing slowly into the darkness. It looked calm and ordinary once again, as if nothing had ever happened. But for those who had seen it, for those who had dared to challenge it, it would forever remain a symbol of the moment when the universe learned a simple truth. The space around the battlefield had gone completely silent. The Varkan ships floated helplessly, their engines dead, their weapons cold. For the first time in their proud history, they were at the mercy of a species they had underestimated. The humans had not destroyed them, had not mocked them, had not even tried to capture them. They had simply stopped them. Inside his command vessel, the Varkan leader sat in quiet disbelief. He had seen many wars, faced many enemies, but this was something different. The humans hadn't fought like any race he knew. They hadn't relied on brute force or numbers. They had outthought him. He stared at the holographic display showing the horizon dawn. The ship was small compared to his massive cruiser, yet it had brought his entire fleet to a standstill. Every time he tried to understand how they did it, the more his mind refused to believe it. How can they be this advanced? He murmured to himself. They are so young, so new to the stars. One of his officers hesitated before answering. Maybe that's why, Commander. They learn faster because they have to. That single line stayed with him. On the horizon dawn, the atmosphere was calm but thoughtful. The crew had won, but there were no celebrations. No cheers, no noise. Just quiet relief and a strange sense of reflection. The captain stood by the observation window watching the stars drift past. The ship's AI reported the status updates in a soft voice. Enemy ships remained disabled. Energy readings stable, no signs of aggression detected. Good, the captain replied gently. Let them recover. They need to understand this more than we need to punish them. She turned to her crew and spoke quietly. We didn't fight them because we wanted victory. We fought to make them see. That's what will change things. The young technician looked confused. But what if they come back? What if they don't learn? The captain gave a small smile. Then we'll teach them again. But I don't think they'll make the same mistake twice. For a moment, everyone fell silent. The hum of the ship filled the space, and the soft glow from the screens painted their faces in shades of blue. The engineer leaned back in his chair. You know, Captain, when they first attacked us, I was angry. I wanted payback. But now, looking at them out there, stuck, helpless, I almost feel sorry for them. She nodded slowly. That's what makes us human. We feel even for our enemies. That's what they never understood. The crew understood now that this wasn't just about one battle. This was about what kind of species humans wanted to become. They could have destroyed the Varkan fleet in seconds. But they didn't. Because that wasn't victory that would have been fear disguised as power. Instead, they had chosen to teach through restraint. Far away, on the Varkan command ship, the leader finally ordered his systems restored. The engineers worked desperately to restart power. When the lights came back on, he looked around at his officers. No one fires another shot, he said firmly. We've lost enough pride for one cycle. They didn't argue. For the first time, there was uncertainty in their eyes. The humans hadn't shouted or gloated. They had sent one simple message before disappearing into the stars. We do not wish to destroy you, but we will defend ourselves. It echoed in the Varkan leader's mind again and again. When he finally returned to his homeworld, his superiors demanded answers. How did a single ship defeat your entire fleet? One of them asked. Was it a weapon? A new kind of technology? He shook his head slowly. No, it wasn't their machines. It was their minds. He told them everything. How the humans had used decoys, how they jammed the systems without firing a shot, how they treated the enemy with mercy instead of hate. The council was silent. None of them wanted to believe it, but deep down they knew it was true. They learned us, the commander said quietly. They watched, adapted, and turned our own strength against us. Their weakness was never weakness at all. The Varkan Council dismissed the meeting soon after, but whispers began to spread. Stories of the human trap ship reached every corner of their empire. Pilots, soldiers, traders, and all spoke of it. Some refused to believe, others feared it, and a few respected it. Among humans, only a few even knew the mission had taken place. The Horizon Dawn and its crew were bound by secrecy. To the public, it was just another cargo ship lost in deep space. In truth, the data the ship collected changed everything. Back at the Human Defense Center, analysts and scientists worked day and night to decode what they had learned. The Varkans' weapon systems, their language frequencies, their flight patterns, All of it was recorded. The captain's mission report was short and calm. Engagement successful. Objective achieved. No losses. The officials who read it couldn't believe it. No one expected the experiment to work this perfectly. One senior officer read the report twice, then set it down with a deep breath. "This changes everything," he said. "If we can understand how they think, we can prevent another war before it begins." That was the lesson the Horizon Dawn had given them. Knowledge was more powerful than destruction. For the crew, though it wasn't about politics or science, it was about what they had seen. The look in the aliens' eyes when they realized they were trapped not by force but by intelligence. It was about the moment when fear turned into understanding. Late that night, the captain sat alone in her quarters. The stars outside moved slowly past the window. She thought about what had happened, about the choices she had made. The AI's gentle voice broke the silence. "You seem thoughtful, Captain." She smiled faintly. "Just thinking about what comes next. We've shown them we can defend ourselves. Now we have to show them who we really are." "Do you believe they'll listen?" the AI asked. "I believe they'll remember," she said softly. "That's a start." Far away in another part of space, a small Varkan ship drifted quietly near an asteroid field. Its captain recorded a personal message to his people. "I was there," he said. "I saw what they did. They could have ended us, but they didn't. They spared us. We must not mistake that for weakness. They have a strength we don't understand, a strength born from patience and unity." That recording spread faster than anyone expected. It reached colonies, soldiers, even the younger generations of the Varkan. Slowly, something began to shift. They started to ask questions. Who are these humans? Why do they fight differently? What makes them protect rather than destroy? The humans didn't know it yet, but their quiet victory had started a wave of curiosity among their former enemies. Curiosity, after all, is the first step toward peace. Months later, the Horizon Dawn returned to its home base. The crew was ordered to rest and remain silent about their mission. As the ship docked, ground teams and officers saluted them respectfully, even if they didn't know the full story. When the captain stepped off the ramp, the sun of Earth hit her face. For the first time in months, she breathed air that wasn't filtered through metal walls. One of the officers greeted her. "Mission accomplished?" She nodded gently. "Mission understood," he smiled. "You mean completed?" She looked back at the stars above. "No, understood. We didn't just complete something. We learned something. So did they." She walked away, her boots echoing softly on the metal floor, leaving behind a ship that would never be spoken of publicly, but would always be remembered in secret archives. Across the galaxy, the Varkan rebuilt their fleet. But this time something was different. They didn't prepare for war. Instead, they began to study human transmissions, music, science broadcasts, stories, art. They wanted to understand what made humans the way they were. And quietly, without formal words or treaties, a fragile respect began to form. The Horizon Dawn had done what no weapon ever could. It had turned enemies into thinkers. The captain's words became something like a legend among her crew. Whenever someone asked how they won, she would simply reply, "By being human." In the end, that was the greatest lesson of all. Because strength didn't come from destroying others. It came from knowing when not to. And that truth, simple yet powerful, was what spread through the stars long after the battle was forgotten. No one could ever look at a human ship the same way again. Every time a Varkan scout saw one on their scanners, they remembered the Horizon Dawn, the ship that turned their pride into wisdom and their aggression into humility. And that is why, for generations to come, every Varkan commander taught their crew the same warning. Never attack a human ship. Not because they are the strongest, but because they are the ones who learn. The stars looked peaceful again, as if the galaxy itself had taken a deep breath after all the chaos. The Horizon Dawn drifted quietly through the vast darkness, its engines running low and steady. Inside, the crew moved slowly, speaking in calm voices. The tension that once filled the ship had faded into something else, something softer, quieter, almost like peace. The captain stood by the observation deck, looking out at the deep blue curve of a distant planet. The reflections of the stars danced faintly on the glass. The mission was over, the reports had been sent, and the ship was heading home. Yet somehow she couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't truly finished. The AI spoke gently beside her. All systems stable. Course set for Earth. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. She smiled faintly. It will be good to see home again. Do you believe they will ever come back? The AI asked, referring to the Varkan. The captain thought for a moment. Maybe someday. But if they do, it won't be for war. Her answer wasn't just hope, it was instinct. Deep inside, she knew something had changed. Down in the crew quarters, the team sat together for one of their last meals in space. The atmosphere felt different now. There was laughter again, quiet, genuine laughter. They talked about what they would do when they got home. Long walks on the beach, real food, time with family, sunlight. Simple things that felt like luxuries after so long among the stars. I still can't believe it, one of them said, shaking his head. An entire alien fleet and not a single shot fired from us that destroyed anything. We actually made them stop without hurting them. Another crew member smiled. That's what makes it amazing. We didn't need to win by fear. The others nodded. They all knew that what they had done was bigger than a single mission. It was proof that humanity's greatest power wasn't in its weapons but in its choices. When the Horizon Dawn finally entered Earth's orbit, the planet looked brighter than any of them remembered. The blue oceans, the green continents, the clouds curling gently across the surface, it all looked alive in a way that made their hearts ache. As the ship descended, the captain gave her final order. Deactivate stealth protocols. Let them see us coming home. The hull lights brightened, painting a trail of soft light across the sky as the ship entered the atmosphere. People on the ground looked up and saw a streak of white across the evening clouds, a symbol of return of safety, though few knew what the ship had truly done. When they landed, officials greeted them quietly. There were no cameras, no public applause, no news coverage. The mission was classified. The world would never know how close it had come to something far greater than anyone could imagine. The captain and her crew handed over their reports and data. Every piece of information was copied, sealed, and sent to a secure research division. Then they were told to rest. As they left the docking area, one of the officers turned to the captain and said softly, "You've done something remarkable." "But no one can know about it," she gave a calm smile. "That's fine. We didn't do it for recognition." He looked surprised. "Then why?" She turned her gaze toward the horizon. "Because peace is worth more than credit." Those words stayed with him long after she walked away. In the months that followed, small signals began to appear in human space. Faint transmissions, not aggressive, not threatening, simple bursts of communication, patterns repeating again and again. Scientists listened, translated, studied, and finally they realized it was a message. It said only 3 words: "We remember you." The Varkan had not disappeared. They were still out there, but now they spoke not with weapons, but with curiosity. The Horizon Dawn's legacy had started something new, a quiet bridge between 2 species that once saw each other as enemies. Human command didn't make the information public, but they continued to study the signals. The scientists found traces of music embedded in the transmissions, not human music, but something rhythmic and melodic, as if the aliens were trying to share their culture. Humanity responded in kind, sending recordings of their own, sounds of oceans, forests, laughter, and symphonies. The exchange continued for years, slowly, carefully, with patience and trust. For the captain and her crew, life moved on. They were reassigned to different stations, different missions. Some left the service, others stayed, but all of them carried the same quiet pride, a secret they shared only with each other. Sometimes, late at night, they would send each other small messages. "Remember the dawn." It became their private phrase, a reminder of what they had done and what it meant. The captain spent her later years teaching at the academy. Young cadets listened to her lectures about leadership, empathy, and strategy. She never spoke about her classified mission directly, but her words always carried the weight of experience. "Power," she would tell her students, "means nothing if you don't know when to stop using it. Sometimes the greatest strength is restraint." One day a student asked her, but what if the enemy doesn't change? What if they just come back stronger?" She smiled softly. "Then we keep learning faster than they do. That's what being human means." Her students wrote those words down, not realizing they came from someone who had lived them in the cold silence of space. Far from Earth, the Varken also changed. They no longer told stories of human weakness or primitive technology. Instead, they told tales of the ship that could think, of the crew that fought without hatred, of the captain who chose peace when she could have chosen destruction. Generations later, young Varken cadets learned about the ghost ship, the human vessel that had stopped an entire fleet without firing a single deadly shot. They didn't know its name, but they knew its lesson. And in their training halls above the entrance, they carved a phrase in their own language that translated roughly to, "Wisdom is stronger than power." Back on Earth, the Horizon Dawn remained hidden in a secure base, retired from duty. Its hull bore the faint marks of the past, scratches from space debris, faded paint, and small dents that told stories no one would ever fully know. Sometimes, maintenance crews passed by and paused to look at it. They didn't know the truth, but they could feel something special about it, a sense of mystery and quiet respect. The captain visited it one last time years later. She walked slowly through the hangar, her footsteps echoing softly against the metal floor. The air smelled faintly of oil and steel, just like it used to. She reached out and placed her hand on the side of the ship. The metal was cool beneath her fingers. "Rest easy, old friend," she whispered. "You did your part." The AI, still active in low-power mode, recognized her voice. A small light flickered on near the console. "Welcome back, Captain," it said softly. She smiled. "I just wanted to say goodbye." The AI paused. "The mission was a success. Do you wish to deactivate?" She looked out at the hangar doors where a sliver of sunlight was peeking through. "No," she said gently. "Keep the lights on. Someone will need you again someday." And with that, she turned and walked away. As the hangar doors closed behind her, the Horizon Dawn stood silently in the dim light, a forgotten hero of a battle that never made the history books, yet changed the galaxy in ways no one could measure. Years passed. The stories of that mysterious encounter spread slowly, whispered among travelers and scientists. Most dismissed them as myths, but some believed. They believed that once, long ago, a human ship taught an entire alien race that mercy was more powerful than dominance. Somewhere out in the distant stars, human explorers still found traces of the Varken, old signals, peaceful and steady. And sometimes those signals carried a short message, always the same words, "We remember you." It became a quiet legend among space travelers, the story of how one ship, one crew, and one choice changed everything. And that is why, even generations later, whenever a human vessel travels through the farthest reaches of the galaxy, there's an old warning that still echoes among those who remember the past. Do not attack a human ship. It's not just metal and engines you face. It's the spirit that never stops learning. Because in the end, the Horizon Dawn was never just a ship. It was a reflection of humanity itself, curious, resilient, compassionate, and always evolving. And that is why, for every species that ever looked upon Earth and thought of conquest, the story of that single ship served as a reminder. Attacking a human ship wasn't bravery. It was their greatest blunder.